Welcome to the Commerce Lab, where every week we sit down with top-performing consumer brands and leaders to understand what drives their success. How did they hit their first million, their first 20 million, their first 100 million? What strategies are working for them today that you should be testing, and what's not working that you should be avoiding? This isn't just a podcast, it's the business school for brand operators. Hey crew, welcome back to another episode of the Commerce Lab. My name is Alan Burt, and today we've got a fascinating interview with Kharma Vella, who is the original co-founder of a brand by the name of Polar. Polar.com, you'd also might have heard of it as Polar Stuff. These guys were a outdoor adventure brand darling between 2011 all the way up until 2019 when they suddenly filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. And the reason I wanted to bring Kharma on the show today was I wanted to understand exactly what happened that drove them into bankruptcy, and then what are they going to be changing in their business going forward to scale it back up. When these guys launched early in around 2011, 2012, they very quickly scaled up to the high seven figures in revenue through both their direct consumer as well as their wholesale channels, I think topping up at around 7 or 8 million before dramatically taking a nosedive from between 2016 to 2019 from the high seven figure mark all the way to Chapter 7 bankruptcy, which is essentially lights out. Chapter 11 allows you to actually kind of restructure. Chapter 7 is lights out. At that point, they were then bought out of bankruptcy by their original owners, brought on a new CEO, brought Kharma, who had been pushed out of the business in 2015, back into the business, and now they are on a upward trajectory to build Polar back into a large outdoor brand. And so what you're gonna pull out of today's interview specifically is, what did they do wrong? What happened at the peak of their growth in 2015 to 16? What changes did they make? What leadership issues? What operations issues? What marketing issues? What caused them to then start that downward trajectory towards bankruptcy? And then most importantly, what are they doing today to change that? How are they operating the business differently? How are they approaching product development, marketing differently in order to scale things back up? So without further ado, I'm going to open this up to Kharma and my conversation about Polar's bankruptcy, what happened, and how are they changing things going forward. Hey, Kharma, welcome to the show.
Hey, Alan. Thanks for having me.
I'm very excited about this one. I'm a huge fan of Polar, and I want to dig into the history and dig into what's been going on the last year and where you guys are looking ahead from here. But before we do, just to give everybody a little bit of context for those who may not be familiar with you and the brand, can you give us just a quick 30-second intro of who you are and what you do?
Yeah, totally. Well, my name's Kharma. I'm one of the two co-founders of the brand, and currently, as the brand, it went under last year, filed for bankruptcy, and in October, I got a call from the owners asking me to come back. So I'm back leading product and creative.
And how would you describe the brand? Polar as a brand, how would you describe it in one or two sentences?
Oh, it's always a hard one.
Right.
In the beginning, we saw a void between action sports and outdoor where, there's so many kids in action sports in particular that latch onto their favorite brands early on, like your Volcom kid or a Quick kid or whatever it might be. You always would go outside of that for outdoor gear. So we kind of just wanted to fill that niche, that void. A lot of people say, we're like Volcom Patagonia had a baby.
And is that mission changed with the sort of the relaunch? Are you guys still going after that same void?
Yeah, for sure. We're definitely, we want to take it back to why people gravitated to the brand in the first place. Just that ethos of camp vibes and the fun spirit of going outdoors and having an adventure and not taking yourself too seriously.
And so we'll kind of dig into that because I'm very curious to sort of hear kind of what the game plan is going forward. But the way that I've always, and tell me whether or not this aligns at all, but the way that I always thought of Polar is this, I'm an outdoor nut. I'm, live in Portland, live in Oregon. And Polar to me was always, you look at the outdoor space and there's a ton in the technical apparel space, right? REI, and there's Patagonia, there's Arc'teryx, there's a ton of options in the technical space. But the reality is most of the time you're not going out and summiting Everest, right? Like you're just going camping with buddies and drinking beers and grilling in the woods, right? And Polar seemed to embody that ethos of like, just get outside, to a degree that I think got missed by these almost over-engineered, technical brands. And I think that's, to me, what made it very attractive. It was just very approachable. I don't know if that aligns with what you guys are going for, but that's why I gravitated to it.
Yeah, 100%. That was kind of our, motto in the beginning. Still is. Yes.
So let's talk a little about kind of the sort of evolution of the brand, because again, I think that the context of the story is really helpful. And the reason why I want to do this is, and the reason why I want to have you on the show is, everybody listening here, or at least the majority of folks listening here, are operating a brand, right? They're a founder, they're a CMO, they're a COO, whoever it may be, but they're tasked day to day with, in the trenches, building and scaling a business and a physical products brands business. You guys kind of came out of the gates. I think you launched in 2011 or ish, around there, right? Came out of the gates and pretty, over the first, what would you call it? The first 5 years, first 40 years, scaled up to the high 7 figures in revenue. And then from there, things took a turn, right? And the revenue started to decrease. I think it was by 2008, I think it was something along the lines of like 2 to 3 million, and then, bankruptcy filings. So what I'd love to do is understand kind of what happened. What did you guys do really well that drove that revenue growth first? And then what was like the change point that caused like the decline? So I think let's start with like, what do you think you guys did really, really well in the early days to scale to the level that you scaled to?
I mean, a lot of it had to do with luck, honestly.
Luck, really? Yeah.
Luck and timing. Yeah. I mean,
okay.
A good idea can come from anywhere, but you have to execute it. And it's a tough one. We were very lucky with the timing of Instagram, for sure. We were lucky with the timing of, that void being there between action sports and outdoors. I guess what we did really well is, seeing that void and filling it right away. But yeah, man, I mean, honestly, I have to say that the success in the beginning was timing and luck.
When you say luck with Instagram, why Instagram? Was Instagram your primary, sales channel? Was that where most of your customers were coming from?
100%.
Got it. That makes total sense. And I think, I think you're downplaying it a little bit and saying luck in the sense that it was great timing for Instagram, because at the end of the day, yes, it was probably great timing to sort of ride the wave, but the content you guys produced was also, in my opinion, world-class, right?
Yes.
You can't just throw anything online, even if the tides are rising. To a certain degree, I guess you could back then, but you guys did it at such a meteoric rate that I think that speaks volumes to the type of content that you guys produced. So I think what we should do is let's take a minute. Let's talk a little about kind of how you guys did such a good job producing content in the early days, and who drove that? Who was sort of the driver behind content production and creative for you guys?
In the beginning, it was both of us, but definitely Benji. Benji was, he definitely did a very good job at that.
So he was more of like the sort of the content inspiration, behind the brand, like the brand guy.
The executor, yeah. I mean, that was the thing in the beginning. This is why I say it was timing and luck. Is there's so many hungry young photographers that were just discovering Instagram, and the platform was pretty new at the time anyway. And there were so many people discovering it at that time that, now it's like really hard to build a following. If you start a brand, you basically have to pay. And then it was like the biggest marketing, platform on the planet, and it was free.
And what was the process? Like, how were you guys producing all this content? Were you doing it in-house and doing photo shoots, or were you guys leveraging outside photographers? And what did that process look like in the early days?
It was a mix of both, for sure. just through our network of friends. And then once, we started the hashtag Camp Vibes and Adventure Mobile. And once those latched on just a bit, people started coming to us. We were able to, for basically, $500 with product, get an amazing photo story.
So I think and I want to differentiate between those two because I think it's something you guys did really well. So you had sort of the Instagram account, but then you guys also actually had these, I don't know what you would call them, but these sort of stories, like these adventure stories that you'd publish, online on the blog, through video content. What was the process for getting those adventure stories pulled together? Was that something you guys paid for and produced, or was this something that was like, hey, threw a bunch of gear at some freelancers and they sort of did it for the exposure?
Yeah, I mean, with a bit of direction, but yeah, exactly. We just, we'd reach out to guys that we liked on Instagram, or just, photographers that we'd been fans of for a while, and just like, hey, we don't have any money. We do have product. What do you think? And, 99% of the time they were in.
That's awesome. And so they'd basically go out and produce these sort of full length, like video or photo stories, with your product being featured, and they were doing it frankly just for the exposure.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. That is in early days of Instagram.
Yeah, exactly.
Benefit, right?
Timing and luck, because now there's no way.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a lot harder to do now. Unless you're just working with, really, really small kind of micro influencer audiences, but even then it's tough. Okay. That's really interesting to know. And so when you guys were looking at sort of sales in the early days, getting up to the high seven figures, was the overwhelming majority of that online, or was that coming, mostly through retail, or what was sort of the breakdown of sales between online and retail?
Once we got up that high, it was definitely, because I think 15, early 16 was probably the heyday,
Okay. Yeah.
Full of sales. We had, I believe, upwards of 40 distributors globally.
Okay.
It was definitely a wholesale market. We did a fair bit on direct.
So who were you guys selling through? Like, were you selling through like major retailers, or these mainly like, boutique outdoor shops?
A mix of both. And what's really weird is, you can kind of steer the ship, but you never know who's going to jump on. And
yep.
Pretty early on, fashion and like the boutique market kind of latched on, which I always thought was odd. So we had, from like kind of these cool high-end boutiques in Soho to, like the mom and pop snowboard shops and skate shops throughout America.
So meaning like the boutique shops in Soho, like that are more like fashion retailers, were carrying like your hats and jackets because they were just like in vogue at the time?
Honestly, tents and knapsacks too.
Seriously? Oh, that's cool.
There was one, I remember we had a store there for a bit in Brooklyn.
Yep.
And it was set for a pop-up for 3 months, but it actually went for 9. But I remember walking through Soho, and I had no idea we were in the store, and it was just like this nice little boutique, super high end, and they had a full polar window display with tents and knapsacks. And that was the one that really blew my mind. That we could take this brand to that direction, that level.
And so you, in that sales channel, that wholesale retail sales channel was, the majority of the business?
Yeah. Combined.
Okay.
I mean, we didn't have many of those stores, but just the fact
I just mean the whole wholesale business unit combined.
Yeah. Just the fact that we were in any of those was just kind of shocking.
So thinking about kind of what drove the rise, it sounds like sort of Instagram was the main sort of brand equity building channel, right? Like that's how you guys got the name out. That's how you built up sort of the brand authority. But the majority of sales are being driven through sort of boutiques and outdoor retailers and primarily your wholesale business.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So then let's give everybody a little bit of backstory in terms of kind of what happened from there. Because what I want to do is I want to soon get here and start talking about kind of what you guys are doing now. But I think that would be remiss without really digging in a bit around kind of what went wrong. And the reason being is because at the end of the day, I think there's, like we talked about, there's a lot of brand operators out there listening to this. And what I want them to be able to take away is are there any sort of red flags or things that they might be doing that you guys did, right? Like what's the stuff they should be avoiding or the things that they should be looking out for
Right.
so that they don't kind of fall into this sort of trap that you guys fell into. And I think it's also worth noting too that for folks that don't know the backstory about Kharma, he actually was pushed out of the business in around 2015, right?
Yeah, correct.
Right. So like this sort of right at the height, sort of the height of the business, he was pushed out and has now sort of recently been brought back. So he's got some insights into what happened, but obviously he wasn't there pulling the levers during the time. But Kharma, give us a little bit of rundown. So what changed in 2015, 2016 at the height that sort of started that downward trajectory in sales?
Honestly, we brought in a new president. He wasn't a seasoned vet. It was kind of his first rodeo coming out of sales management. He had a bit of an ego, and that's never good in business, as we all know. And I was blown away by people like that, where you're like, you have so many templates of what not to do, but yet, certain people continue to do it. And it's just, I'm just not that person. So it's always just really fascinating to me. Like, and they can be told a million times, like, look, man, they didn't make it because of this and that or this, whatever. But yet they continue, so.
So when you say sort of templates, what do you mean? Like he was just clearly operating under a model that hadn't worked for others in the past?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. And what model was that?
Everybody in the industries, and it's, you hear the stories like, oh yeah, that, of course it didn't work because I had so-and-so at the helm and he's an egomaniac. And it's like,
yeah,
just, I don't know. For me, I've always looked at, I'm an optimist, I guess. So I just look at the things that didn't work, take it for what it is, move on and learn from it.
And so what changes did he specifically make that were, maybe ego driven that should not have been?
Nothing was transparent. It was always, there was like, he broke everything up into cliques. There was like these little clubs. And it's, that just doesn't work. It's like high school politics.
Meaning like with employees, like in sort of segments of the business?
Yeah, it was a tough one because, you start this company, it becomes your baby, and and that's the growth of a company. You have to bring other people in because baby grows. And he definitely was not the right choice in hindsight.
So when things started to deteriorate, what, beyond him, sounds like not allowing enough transparency, internally in the business, but, what drove customers to stop buying? And it sounds like, the wholesale business was the primary, piece of the business, so they had to stop buying, right? It's because they're obviously customers of the retail shops weren't buying. What do you think drove that decline in demand?
No structure, honestly. We were never on schedule. We were always late, constantly.
In terms of developing product and delivering product?
Delivering, yeah. We had all of these shops, these accounts that believed in us, and they allot their dollars to us, other than other companies. And then, we're a month, 2 months, 3 months late on delivery every season. That takes a toll. And a big thing was with that, I think the biggest, part of why it really started to fall was scheduling on calendar, not being on calendar. And then with our online business, we would have stuff on sale say we would get the stuff right at the same time, but we'd put it right on sale, like discounted sale on our website before accounts even got it.
So I think what you're saying is that so there's no kind of congruency or alignment between kind of the wholesale and online, right? If you guys are putting things on sale before they even reach retail stores, right?
I mean, it's all about timing. If you're late, big box stores won't even touch you. With big accounts, you have to be on calendar. Mom and pop stores and like smaller retailers definitely give you a try, but if you do that 1 or 2 seasons, you're done. And that was our MO. We were like, yeah, they're the cool camping company, but we can never get their stuff on time. So,
it's really a logistical, like an internal logistics problem.
Yeah.
Interesting. So it's not that you guys saw like a decrease in demand from the consumer base or a decrease in sort of, desire for the brand, right? Or audience. It was really just a
weird thing. Yeah. I mean, it was there for sure. I think up until the end and even through the year that the company was gone, there was still the demand, but there was no structure is really what it was.
So really it's sort of a warning story around, trying to run a sort of a wholesale business along with a direct consumer online business and just sort of the importance of operations and logistics and maintaining wholesale relationships, for you guys.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Nobody talks about that. That's never sort of brought up in the world of building a brand online. Everybody's always concerned about marketing and customer acquisition. But the operations, the logistics can kill you if you don't do it right.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it, you have this huge rep force, there's 9 territories in the US, and you have these guys out, selling your products, putting their reputation on the line. And then you don't deliver on time. It kind of hurts, obviously hurts them, bums out the accounts. It's, a trickle down effect, and then sales start to decline.
And so ultimately this led to a Chapter 7 bankruptcy in I think early 2019. And it sounds like and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like that was just purely because wholesale just dried up, right?
Sorry. I had an employee walk in the back.
No, I was saying in early 2019, you guys filed for Chapter 7, or I should say that the business did prior to you coming back. So it sounds like what drove that ultimate bankruptcy was just a drying up of the wholesale business.
Well, what's funny is in, I believe, 17, Polar actually killed wholesale. They decided to stop and fired.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. And just focused specifically on online direct to consumer?
Yes. They still worked with some overseas distributors, but yeah, as far as US, they just killed it, which, goes back to what I was saying, you have this rep force that they really believed in you in the beginning and like were super into it. And, they didn't make any money the first few seasons, put their reputations on the line, and then they had your back, and then you just cut them. That was tough. And like, I stayed friends, even though I was gone, I stayed friends with most of the reps, and they were pretty hurt.
Yeah, I'm sure they were pissed. That's one way to burn a massive channel for the business, right?
Yeah, and
I'm sure that's made it tough coming back too.
The reps make, at least the action sports world go round, and they're so connected with, because most of them do a bunch of different brands, obviously, and they're so cross woven, I mean, they know everybody in the industry. So it was not a good look for Polar, that's for sure. Plus, I think it just clipped like 60% of the revenue stream overnight. And I'm not sure because, I wasn't around then, but, their thought must have been like, we'll put more money into marketing and grow our direct business, but it didn't work.
Hey crew, just a quick interruption to ask if you like what you are hearing and want more. Perhaps even a weekly digest of what's working today in the world of e-commerce. Every week, our team of strategists compile a single email with growth strategies and operations tactics gleaned from our work with and analysis of today's top performing brands. Think of it as the brand operator's cheat sheet. They keep you ahead of the curve and ahead of the competition. Just head over to thecommercelab.com. That's thecommercelab.com to sign up.
So then 2019 bankruptcy, I think it's, from at least from what I've seen, debts were pretty high, sales were dropping. The business, filed, shut down. So then what happened? Did it come under new ownership? Did somebody buy up the assets, or was it the original owners, or what sort of happened between bankruptcy and the relaunch in late 2019?
Yeah, so there's a bit of a false narrative that has been going around with the new owners. They're not new by any means.
Got it.
They're the original South Asian distributor that invested, like 4.5 mil, I think in 15 or 14.
Okay.
And that was on top of investing a bit prior to that.
So you and Benji started the brand, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So 2011-ish, and then these guys came on and invested, sounds like a couple different times, with a pretty large investment in 2015-ish. And then, Chapter 7 bankruptcy, these owners maintained the assets. So what happened between that bankruptcy and relaunch then?
I'm not completely clear how much they ended up owning at the end, but
right.
As far as the common stock, I don't think they owned any, but preferred stock, I heard they owned up to 80%.
Okay.
So they were kind of first in line to buy it out of bankruptcy.
Got it.
And that's what happened. They acquired it. They spent a lot more money to get it out of bankruptcy, pay off the debts, and relaunch it. And they just kind of wanted a fresh start, It's a hard one for me to say, but like I look at it where I got booted 15. Benji had his chance, and now I somehow I'm getting mine.
And what was sort of the strategic playbook, right? Coming out of bankruptcy, when they put the money down to buy it out of bankruptcy, what was the plan to move forward, and how was it going to change versus how it was operated previously?
So Primer, who owns it outright now, is they're the South Asian distributors for 25 or so different companies. North Face, Mountain Hardware, Columbia,
mm-hmm.
bigger ones, obviously. So they're very structured, very structured, which is awesome. It's and then we have the new CEO, which he came on. His name's Capner. He came on at the end of the first round to kind of try to save it. And the caps table was ridiculous. There was, probably 35, 40 owners,
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah. And the debt was so crazy that even though the brand still had legs, hype wise, just, it was so far gone that they tried to sell it. No one was buying. So, bankruptcy was the only option.
And why 35 or 34 owners? How did the cap table get to that level?
Just over the years, when you, it's funny. So the magic number for big investment is like 20 mil typically.
Right.
But we weren't there. So it was tough because every year we had grown so much that we didn't really have the capital for production. So we just get, as many investors as we could and to continue. And it just got a little out of hand.
Meaning that sort of the end of the year, in order to buy up enough inventory and produce enough product for the next season, you just needed capital because it was just growing so fast.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And you guys went out and raised, equity rounds to do that, as opposed to just, funding it with debt.
Yep.
Okay. That makes total sense then. That's how you end up with 35 people on your cap table at, a few million in revenue.
Exactly.
Cool. Okay. That makes total sense. So I think that gives a ton of clarity in terms of kind of how and you guys got into the position that you're in now.
Yeah.
Or I guess say you were in, during 2019. Would love to dig in and talk about what's ahead. Because I think there's a number of takeaways, obviously, people can learn from this. A, around sort of operations, and then also B, around fundraising and financing. But what I'd really like to know is, what's the game plan going forward? When you guys look at how you're going to scale the brand over the next 5 years, how much of this is going back to those wholesale partners? How much of this is focusing exclusively on direct to consumer? How do you guys look at growth channels and where you should be investing your money going forward?
Right. So yeah, the plan is to, obviously be on time first and foremost. Because I think a lot of people are looking at us now. Is it going to be the same old thing? Like, what is going to be different? So, being very structured and being on calendar is our main focus. We're also going to bring a sustainable element into the whole thing. Where, and that's kind of a given. Where, as a company, you have to do that now. It's a no-brainer. Bigger partners like REI have already said that if you have regular poly bags, that your garments are in, that you're going to be charged next year.
And can you explain what you mean by that? Like, what's a poly bag?
The plastic bag that every item.
Got it. Okay. So when you're boxing up a product, the bags that product is being shipped in.
And if you really think about that, every single product, every garment comes in a poly bag. So it's a lot of waste.
Yeah.
There are some recycled ones out there, and a lot of companies are trying to figure out new ones. I know Patagonia has been working on getting away from plastic altogether, and everything comes in like a reusable bag.
So sustainability being a big piece of how you guys think about, product. It sounds like also reviving, wholesale relationships. Do you see wholesale as still being the primary sales channel for the business, or do you guys see direct to consumer being the primary sales channel?
I think in the beginning, it will be wholesale will be kind of the primary, and then adding more distributors as well. There's you probably don't know this, but this is a really funny one that I was very, very excited about. So our Japan partners, Canvas, the distributor over there, even though the brand went under, they continued to make their own stuff, and they were like they didn't care. They just continued with the brand and actually had their own collection, was manufacturing it as if nothing ever happened.
Really?
Awesome. Yeah. And they continued. They're still our partners going forward.
And what were they doing with it? So they were the manufacturing partner, and they were just to continue to distribute it in Japan?
No, originally they weren't the manufacturing partner at all. They just started making their own stuff. Like, the brand went under, and they were like, well, we still like it. I guess we'll just continue.
Oh, that's funny.
Awesome. Yeah.
Well, it just shows the power that shows the power of the brand equity you guys built over those years.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, obviously that's why Primer, the owners, really wanted to get it back and just continue, kind of push reset and do everything right this time.
Because they knew they could set up the right team that could run operations efficiently. You guys already had what was probably one of the hardest pieces of the whole thing, which is an audience and a brand and folks that actually love what you do and the story that you're telling. And it was just the operations that destroyed it, right?
Yeah, 100%. And that's the funny thing now, where it's it's like a startup, but it's not really. Like, we already have this audience and this foothold, but from an operational standpoint, it's kind of a startup.
And so I know it's still early days. You guys have only been relaunched here for a few months at this point. What's been the reaction amongst your sort of existing audience or past customer base? Are you seeing people coming back, flocking back, or are people sort of burned and it's taking some while to kind of build up some momentum again? Or what's been the reaction from the audience?
A mix of both for sure. A very small amount, I think, feel burned. From tons of different reasons. There's been people that come in and they're like, "Hey, I have a $500 gift card. What's up?" And, like, well, we're, yes, the same company, but kind of a separate entity now, or a different entity. So
yeah,
legally we don't have to honor that, but obviously we want to make good and keep, all customers. So there's been that a bit. But overall, I'd say over 90% is positivity, and, customers are stoked, and a huge following. Had no idea we even went under.
That's ideal, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like you never left.
Right. There's people that have come into the store around the holidays, and they had zero clue, because we do have the same store location. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, I did, which is awesome.
Yeah, it got locked up in the bankruptcy, so the owner couldn't lease it out anyway. So, the rent was paid for the year, and we got to keep it.
So then moving forward, what's obviously wholesale, you guys view wholesale as being sort of the initial channel to start to scale back up in. How do you guys think about building brand equity again, right? Like, how do you think about getting back and building up that machine that works so well in sort of the first, early days to build you guys up? What's the plan going forward? Is it sort of literally pick up where you left off? Are you guys structuring it differently? Or how are you thinking about, marketing?
We're definitely going to focus more on product again. The marketing will stay the same, obviously. I think that being the driving force behind the brand overall. We have a pretty good marketing team that's definitely going to step it up a bit, but the same formula will go forward with marketing. The main thing is product. We're, as far as change, just bringing in a sustainable story and making pragmatic pieces that work. I think what happened in the past was, it would be like the line doesn't look big enough, so we would just throw SKUs at it with no reasoning, and with no with no reason to just be like, oh, we need another pant, just throw a pant on there. There was no strategy whatsoever. So
and what's going to be the strategy going forward?
As far as like our bag line prior to the bankruptcy, there was probably 5 bags that were so similar. We're just going to steal from that, where it's, it just got kind of out of hand, and there's so much competition in that space as well, that just trying to focus on why each piece works in the line.
And what's the process for that, right? Like, 'cause I think, and this is probably something that you guys may just do sort of naturally, or might just come naturally to you, but I want to try to break it down a little bit. When you think about sort of where you guys fit in the market, and I think the same philosophy applies for product creation as well as for, marketing and storytelling. Do you guys have like a persona, like a type, like an archetype of like a customer that every time you go to produce a product, you're saying, okay, are we filling the needs of this person? Are we doing something specific to sort of fill a gap in this person's life, or, sort of the story they want to tell themselves? How do you guys go through that process of saying, okay, this is the piece of content we're going to produce, or this is the product, we're going to produce?
A little bit of both. We definitely, it's hard because our customer base spans quite a few different, kind of genres, I'd say. Mm-hmm. Where I never thought in the beginning that, say, high school kids would latch onto the brand, but it's really huge with that demographic. But we definitely try to think about that when designing. coming up with the line is, what will our customer use this piece for? But on a whole, I mean, it's, I don't know. And that's a tough one.
And then on the marketing side, obviously the world of Instagram has changed dramatically, from the early days. How are you guys looking to manage that channel and produce content today, since it's not quite as easy as it was back then, just to throw a bunch of gear at some photographers and, have them shoot a bunch of, free stories for you?
Right. I mean, we are going to try that angle. We're working to some degree. But,
yeah, right. Well, you guys have a little bit of clout now, so it makes it a little bit easier, and you've got an audience.
A little, and people, pretty excited to see it, that it's back and want to work with us. And, there's always the young, hungry guys out there, photographers, and it's not that we want to use them by any means. Like, we want to create this relationship where, if someone reaches out to us and they're like, "Hey, I'd love to do a photo story for you." We know you don't have any money, but I'll take a bunch of product, I'll shoot this story and send it to you. We then would like to keep a relationship with that person and grow them as we grow. I mean, I think back in the first round, I believe one of those people, got an in-house job like that. So, it's things like that, just growing a community and creating this, brand family. We're also going to start up our tent team again, of sponsored riders. But a big thing with that too is not, and usually a sponsored rider just gets, they have a certain talent, they get paid, here's some product, endorse this. But now it's like, you can't really just rely on that. You have to have a little bit more, to be, create content. So we're being pretty, selective on who's going to be on the team based off that.
And so can you explain what that tent team is a little bit more?
So because in the beginning, when we reached out to sponsor, be it, I guess the first was snow, skate, surf, photographers, I guess. So we had 4 categories, and, because there was no competition, I don't know if you know, but our original team lineup was kind of ridiculous. Like, I remember the first trade show, SIA 11, I believe. And on our catalog, it had like this list of riders. I think then it was just snow and skate. Mm-hmm. People didn't believe it. They were like, "Is this a joke?" And we're like, no, this is our team.
Because you had just big names on the list.
Yeah. For the time, they were huge names. But, most of them were friends or acquaintances that we had known from the industry. And, they didn't need to be paid, at least from us. But, nobody else was making sleeping bags and tents. So it didn't conflict with anybody, any other sponsors. Oh,
cool. Okay.
Where now it kind of does. We make jackets, and do cut and sew and apparel and all sorts of other things. So we call it the tent team. So they're really technically just on the tent team to kind of, not bum out other sponsors.
But it's essentially a grouping of athletes, right? Sort of outdoor, active sports athletes or adventure athletes that are quote unquote sponsored, right?
Correct. From snow, skate, surf. It's weird. It used to be so like specific. Now you can just be kind of a lifestyle, influencer. Honestly, if you're a famous influencer, social media, there's some of those people are making more money than any sponsored, specific athlete has ever made.
And are you guys going to go the influencer route as well and do sort of paid promotions?
We're definitely, using influencers. That's what I was saying in the beginning. Like, our tent team you're not just going to be like okay, you're a good snowboarder. You're somebody in snowboarding. You're going to be somebody in snowboarding, but also you have to have some sort of a influencer.
A following, like an influencer following.
Correct.
And is that literally just sponsored product? You're just going to give them a sponsored product, or is that going to be a sort of a paid sponsorship position?
In the beginning, definitely just sponsored product.
Product, yeah.
Build this up, that's a different story. We're definitely.
Yeah. And the reason I'm asking is I think that's a question every brand owner has as they start to build out that type of influencer network and look to promote through that channel is, what's it going to cost, right? And is it even still possible to do this with just, free product? And it sounds like, for you guys, that is still the case.
We're hoping. It's not proven yet.
Not proven just yet. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, we'll see. We're just, we just went to Park City for 3 days and had a marketing summit, just internally with the company, and kind of just working through what we're going to do and what the strategy with that is.
And how big is the team now after the relaunch?
Currently there's about 10 people.
Okay. And how much of that is dedicated towards like product, product production design versus like marketing and sales?
Pretty dead even right now.
Okay.
3 on the product side, 2 to 3 on the marketing side, and then sales. We don't have a dedicated, sales manager per se yet. It's a mix of 2 to 3 people tackling that.
And that's wholesale sales, you're saying, right?
No, we're coming back. So we relaunch wholesale in spring 21.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're currently we're just direct and on our web store and in store.
Gotcha. Okay. Very cool. So we're not going to see Polar in any boutiques in Soho this year.
Not yet. No.
Not yet. All right. Well, cool. Well, Kharma, this was awesome, man. I appreciate you taking the time. I think it's fascinating to get everybody just sort of an inside look under the hood. Like this is standard. This is standard business stuff. This happens, right? Like, and I think it's good to understand, specifically what drove it. And I think probably the most interesting takeaway for me of all this is really operations. It was sort of poor leadership at the top that drove, a lack of focus and really killed the number one sales channel, which was wholesale, through operational sort of and logistical problems. And I think that's a story that you don't hear that often. So I'm glad you came on to tell, because I think it's a great sort of warning sign to anybody who's scaling, right? That and then at the end of the day, operations are the lifeblood of the brand, as long as you've built a brand. So this was really, really good, and glad to see you guys back. Glad to have you guys back and alive in Portland. I need to come by the shop and pick up some new gear.
Yeah, please do.
All right, man. Well, where's the best place for people to find you or the brand online? I know it's polar.com, but is there anywhere else they should go to check you guys out?
Yeah, come by our store on 10th Avenue, right by the Ace Hotel in Portland.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, this was great.
All right. Thanks for having me on. It was awesome.
Hey crew, it's Alan Bird again. And real quick before you go, would you like a weekly digest of what's working today in the world of consumer-facing e-commerce? Every week, our team of strategists compile a single email with growth strategies and operations tactics that help you stay ahead of the curve and ahead of the competition. Think of it as the brand operator's cheat sheet. Just head over to thecommercelab.com to sign up.